This is the regular Planning Commission meeting for June 20th, 2024. Call the meeting to order. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioners Brickner,
Here.
Conigan,
Here.
Grant,
Here.
Dante,
Here.
Stimson,
Here.
Varga,
Here.
Ware,
Here.
and Chair Treflet.
Here. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a motion to approve the agenda as written.
I move to approve the agenda as published.
Second. Moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved, published. This is the regular meeting tonight. This is a planned unit development PUD qualification. What we're going to talk about tonight is, does this qualify for a planned unit development? This is not a public hearing. This is where we're going to make input and vote to move this on to the City Council. However, there is a section on item 6 on the agenda for public comment. For those of you that came tonight and wish to comment, that would be the point where you would comment. You would have 3 minutes to comment if you're an individual, or 5 minutes if you represent a homeowners group. You're up.
Good evening, folks. My name is Kareem Ammer. I'm with Skilkin Gold Development. It's 4270 Morse Road, Columbus, Ohio, 43230. With me today, I have Scott Armstrong and Alex Sawicki with the Sheets team. I have John Ackerman from Kimley Horn and our land use attorney here, Pat Lennon. If you folks don't recall, not too long ago, we were here to be read into a rezoning for a B3 district. The very constructive feedback we got was that based on the activation and what we were going for on the site, for us to pursue a PUD would be a more collaborative and inclusive process, and we believe that was an excellent suggestion. So today, we hope to go through a number of things. One, a little bit more about Sheets, who we are, some misconceptions and some things that some folks probably won't know about Sheets at first glance, and also go through some of the reasons why we believe we qualify for a PUD. Getting the spinning wheel. It's a good sign. Great, just to orient everybody again, we're at the northwest corner here of West 12 Mile and Middle Belt Road. Across 3 parcels, we have about 3.83 acres. You know, if you'll notice from this layout, from the site plan, it's a lot more land than we need for our facility. And that's done strategically. One is we do aim to have an above-ground detention just north of our facility. But more importantly, we did that to allow for buffering, to allow for a reasonable amount of space to mitigate any potential impact to the residences, which again, we'll talk through some of those externalities that may be perceived to come from this. But the key point is, we came here with the intent of preserving natural space, preserving buffering, enhancing it, and adding some really key features here that we're excited to share with you folks. A Sheets store, and we'll get in to really who is Sheets and what goes on inside the store and around it. It'll be a restaurant, made to order restaurant, fresh food delivered daily. That also comes with a convenience store. We are showing a drive-through on this. That's a standard component to a lot of our sites. I will put an asterisk there. Really low amount of volume in our drive-throughs. Less than 10% of the sales really come through there. You know, on the dozens of Sheets I've worked on, I've never seen more than 2 or 3 cars stacked there. We have 6 fuel pumps, dual-sided, so 12 stations. And what we're really, proud to share with you guys today is, we've been spending upwards of 6 months on the site, not making it just a prototype store, but a really signature hallmark location. Not only do we have our four-sided architecture with really wonderful materials, brick, stone, glass, metal awnings. We've enhanced that with quite a lot of landscape planters. There's multiple pedestrian access points. We've included bike racks. And this is all feedback that's been incorporated from correspondence we've had, multiple meetings with staff, correspondence we've had from property owners to the north of us, residential homeowners, and even the mayor, has had some really great input on this. We're featuring a 3-foot knee wall along the perimeter of the property, so that will really be a wonderful accent and really, again, emphasize really the importance of this intersection. We understand that. We understand what has been at this site before and what it served to the community, and really want to accent that with, again, additional landscaping and key characteristics. And, the only way we can do that and ensure these features are met and this buffering and this natural space is preserved really is only through a PUD. That was the key feedback we got is, hey, listen, we're getting more property than we need to ensure buffering, we want to put some key features, but there was reservations about a blanket rezoning, and we heard you guys on that. So we believe this PUD is an excellent suggestion. It allows us to memorialize these features, this buffering. We're even reducing the impervious surface area that exists today. We're adding a net new positive in trees that are on the site today. So really doing all that we can to, one, show that we're good neighbors, we're listening, and incorporate some of these key features. Now I'll pass it off to Alex with sheets, and he'll go through a little bit more of who they are.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Sawicki. I'm an engineering and entitlements manager with Sheets. You can find me located right here in Farmington Hills, 39300 West 12 Mile Road. So Kareem did a excellent job with his presentation. He actually stole a lot of my thunder. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the Sheets story. I'm going to be real quick, just kind of give you some more context about who we are and what we do. So Sheets was founded in 1952 in Altoona, Pennsylvania. If you guys don't know where Altoona is, it's about 30 to 40 minutes south of State College. I see some of you shaking your heads, you know where it's at.
From Philly.
Are you? Okay, great. That area belongs to one of our competitors we're not going to talk about this evening. So it was founded by Bob Sheets, and it started out as a restaurant convenience store. We didn't actually start selling fuel until almost 30 years into our operation in the 80s. And that restaurant convenience store is really what we pride ourselves on. It's really what we embrace as our business model. Thank you. So Kareem already talked about some of the outdoors. We use really high quality materials, but really what I want to specify here is the outdoor dining. So with all of our locations, but especially this one, which I'm sure you all saw with the site plan, we're really trying to emphasize that this can be a gathering point for the community. It's a place where people come, where people hang out, where people get food, where people get what they need on the go. It's a place to go with friends, and it's something that we're proud to bring here. Going on the inside, you can see some photos of the restaurant. So we do have space for 30 seats inside. It's a full quick service restaurant. We have made-to-order fresh food. You can get it any way you want it. There's like 1.1 million different combinations that you can get out of our menu. And you can order that intuitively through the touchpoint monitors that you see in the middle picture there. That same technology is available outside our drive-through, which you see on the right. Just some more photos. We have our full kitchen, and then next to our full kitchen, we also have Sheets Brothers Coffee. So you can get specialty coffees, milkshakes, smoothies, that type of thing. You can use one of our signature recipes if you want, or again, made to order any way you want it. This will be my last slide for this evening because I said Kareem kind of stole my thunder. We are really, really big on being a big community partner, being a good neighbor in the community. It's ingrained in our DNA. We do that through a lot of different things. So one of the things is the various charities that we have and we work with. So one of them is Special Olympics. We work with Special Olympics at every level, national, state, and local level. We donate a good amount of cash to them every year, but we also work with them. We go out and we help man their fundraisers. We do different events and stuff like that throughout the year with them. We also do the same thing with various food banks. So we work with Feeding America, and again, we do that at every level. And then we also have Sheets for the Kids. So Sheets for the Kids was founded by two of our very own employees back in 1992, and it has grown since then. They do a variety of things, but I think one of the very coolest things is they organize employees from every store throughout our entire footprint around the holiday time. Employees from the store go out and buy gifts for children in the local community that are maybe underprivileged. And that's all, funded by Sheets for the Kids and the Sheets Corporation itself. So employees from this store are going to go out and buy presents for kids in Farmington Hills. And every one of our stores does that. And that's just one thing Sheets for the Kids does, but I think it's one of the cooler things. With that, I have not a whole lot left to tell you about Sheets. I'm going to turn it over to Pat Lennon. He's going to talk about the technicalities of the PUD, and then we will all be available for questions after.
I believe you can come up here, but I believe we have one more slide. I did want to touch on that. Another key point, a misconception a lot of folks have about us is, they believe we come and we bring all this traffic with us. And we're in the midst of doing traffic studies, and we've done them numerous times across all our sites. But the key premise of why we come is to capture traffic, not to generate it. That's the real whole premise of why we identify wonderful sites like these. And throughout this process, hopefully at a full PUD here, and we can bring that data to support this. But that's a key misconception is folks think Sheets is coming to this corner, it's going to be even more traffic. Usually it's not. We're capturing what's already there. That's a key premise. We'll briefly talk about a lot of sort of the programs within Sheets as well. Sheets is really set up for the future. We understand that electric vehicles are coming, and part of that is Sheets is actually today the #1 third-party partner to Tesla superchargers. Now, we can't decide if they come to our sites, but they usually pick a lot of our sites more than any other retailer. There's very high likelihood they come to our sites. And even if they don't, we put conduit and we pre-plan our sites for other third-party vendors and even for Sheets to establish their own one day in-house EV charging. So, we're looking forward, setting ourselves up for the future to make sure we never have a vacant site again. If gas will one day be a thing of the past, you're going to need to spend 15, 20 minutes to charge your car, regardless of where it is. Sheets would be an excellent place to do that. They have recycling programs. In terms of remediation, we tackle dirty sites all the time. We clean up sites, and we come on them quite often, actually. And Sheets really does have robust and state-of-the-art monitoring of their underground storage tanks. It's a very serious department at Sheets, believe it or not. But everything is done at a high level, and it's really what we like to think, revolutionary in terms of this specific type of use. We're taking everything up to a really higher standard. And again, just want to reiterate, focusing on landscaping, reducing the impervious surface area that's there today, adding more trees, and being efficient. So we're thinking all those things, and we really want to set this use into the future. That's Sheets' goal. We want to be here for the future and future focused. Now I'll pass it over to Pat. Just wanted to mention those few things.
Yeah, I may have jumped the gun a little bit, Kareem, thanks. I'd like to hand out a supplement. I'm not as high-tech as some of these guys. I brought this for you so you could follow along what I'm gonna say, which will be a lot more boring than what they are.
How many copies are there, do you know?
Just one for each. I think there's 10 there, so there might be an extra.
He's not here.
So what you're receiving is a supplement that I created, and what this does is it goes through the criteria for determining whether or not a project qualifies for a planned unit development, and these are found in section 34-320.2 A through F of your ordinance. And I'm just going to go through these real quickly with you. At the end of the day, as the previous speakers pointed out, we learned a lot at the last Planning Commission meeting. You know, we came here to talk about rezoning to B3, and we had tried to talk about conditional rezoning, and that wasn't available. We knew we needed to do something that gave the city the tools to work with us to make the project as compatible as it can be with the surrounding area. So we think the PUD is the right tool for that, and we appreciate the input we received at the last meeting. And when we go through the qualification criteria, I think, or at least we hope you'll agree with us, that they also lead to that conclusion. The first is letter A. It says the PUD option may be effectuated in any zoning district. Well, that's kind of self-evident, so that's good to know, and that one really isn't a question. As pointed out in the report from staff, that is clearly satisfied for virtually any PUD request. Number B, or letter B, really breaks down to, will the use result in an improvement to the health, safety, and welfare in the area in which it's located? Well, in this case, we think it's absolutely true, and really for two reasons. The first, and neither one of them are really legal, by the way. The first reason is that the property is currently a vacant and deteriorating building, and we have the opportunity to replace that with a new state-of-the-art, multi-purpose facility. And we think it will be a great fit there. And in many ways, the cafe element of the Sheets building carries forward the notion of having a gathering place in this location. We learned that the restaurant that was at this location before was popular. Well, what you may have seen from the slides and what you may learn in the news is that Sheets is also a gathering place. In fact, it wasn't long ago that Joe Biden visited one during a campaign trip through Pennsylvania. And the reason he went there is because that's where people go for their coffee, they go to gather, and it serves as a social forum for folks to get together. So we think this will definitely further the health, safety, and welfare of that area when you consider what it is now and what it will be for a long time if this isn't something the city wants to do. Letter C, can the same land use objectives be accomplished through conventional zoning provisions? That's my sort of paraphrasing of that long language. And we would say no, not in this case. As discussed at the last meeting and previously tonight, if we were to rezone this property to B1 or B3, as we were previously suggesting, the city would not have the tools it needs to lock this property down, lock down the site plan, build in that open space area so that's protected, build in those buffer areas so that no one can change them. So the PUD tool is needed. And second, and maybe most importantly, the existing zoning classification is RC2, which is multifamily residential. We've learned that this isn't working on this site. There have been multiple attempts to try to do some multifamily there, but they haven't worked. And there's no viable alternatives on the horizon. So our solution of providing a multi-purpose facility that can serve as something of a gathering place, as was there before, feels like it should be a really good fit. D, and I'll paraphrase this, will the proposed land use add to service and facility loads beyond those contemplated by the master plan? And if so, can those extra loads be mitigated through the PUD process? Well, here's another, I think, strong point in favor of considering this for a PUD or supporting it for that next step. The master plan designates the majority of this site as shopping center type business. And what that master plan designation aligns to in terms of zoning is the B1, B2, and B4 zoning districts. Well, fueling stations and restaurant facilities are permitted in the B1 zoning district. So as such, we think this element, is satisfied on its face because fueling station and restaurant elements better fit the future land use plan than the current zoning classification, which is the multifamily district. But of course, coming back to the PUD tools again, if we decide that this will add loads, which we don't think it would, but if it did, we have the tools in the PUD toolbox to eliminate or mitigate any impacts that are of a concern. And obviously, we are here to work with the city to make this the best project it can be. Letter E of the criteria is an interesting one. It actually includes 8 separate possible characteristics of the project. And if you meet one of them, letter E is satisfied. Well, the good news here is we meet 7 of 8 in our minds. And so looking at this, and to kind of save time, I can sort of bundle a couple of them. First of all, items E1, E3, and E4 all relate to open space and protecting open space and buffers to residential areas. Well, our property, we didn't come here just trying to jam in, a new use. We bought extra property that will serve as a buffer, and we're willing to restrict that so that it can't be used for anything other than that. And so we think that satisfies all 3 of those requirements, and we think that's hopefully something that's a benefit, because the building we're going to build, I believe, is smaller than the building that's there now, and the open space between the back of the building and the residential area will be much bigger. So we hope that's viewed as a positive. We also think items 7 and 8 of letter E are met, and those are kind of the same thing. Again, those get into, 7, for example, does the PUD foster the aesthetic appearance of the city through quality building design and things like that? Well, obviously, in this case, the new facility will be a vast improvement. This is not even a regular type building. This building's meant to be special. And I think that comes through in the architecture, in the reduced impervious area, in the connections to surrounding properties through pedestrian accesses, through the extra landscaping, and the decorative knee wall and other amenities that we've added. Similarly, does the redevelopment bring about an orderly change of use where desirable? Well, absolutely, we think it does, because, again, this is not just a blank palette that we're painting on. What we have is a property that is past its time. And now it's time for something new, and unless something new is put there, that prominent corner will continue to have that same look and probably even more disrepair. So we think that this is a worthwhile approach. And then finally, even Romanet 6 of E, does it promote the goals and objectives of the master plan for land use? Well, we would contend it does, because the use meets more of the future land use designation than the multifamily residential zone would. So we think we meet E2. So that gets us all the way to F, which is the last criteria. And F asks, are we using the PUD to increase density? Well, that's obviously a no. Or as a substitute for a variance. And in that case, we are not, because we're not asking for dimensional variances. What we're doing is using the PUD process so that we can lock in the open space area. We talked about a lot of ideas for doing that at the last meeting. We said we'd leave that northerly area multifamily. Well, we weren't too comfortable with that. We didn't want to have a split zone parcel. We said we would do a deed restriction. Well, that feels like conditional rezoning. We better not do that. Well, the feedback that we received from you and took to heart and agreed with is that this should be submitted to the PUD process, worked on with the planning team, and brought back to you for hopefully at one point a PUD approval that tailors the site to something that might not be everyone's favorite, but is something that is much better than what's there today. So with those thoughts, I would respectfully request your approval and would absolutely be glad to answer any questions. I think we have another tab for that too.
Any questions for the proponent?
We had to bring up the fancy photos for the questions. That's important.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Okay, the first one is to permanently preserve open space and provide a buffer. And it says a quarter acre.
John, can you
Somewhere in there?
clarify what the
How big
space
is
to the
it?
north is?
I don't care about the quarter acre.
We can show you where it is,
Yeah, I read a quarter acre. So do you have the dimensions? Like how deep, how big a buffer are we talking about here? How deep the
I think we
buffer?
can put that up, can't we?
The quarter acre comment was actually the reduction of impervious surface.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah, so that was the reduction of that parking lot that falls up the western property line all the way
Yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
That
get
is all
things
being
wrong.
removed, so that's the reduction of that.
It's actually more than a quarter acre then.
So, oh, the open space, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's acre and a half, I would say, somewhere in there.
I just wanted to,
Wraps around the perimeter, so.
just wanted to know how big a buffer we were talking.
Yeah.
And remember, they bought that house up there too, and that's part of that. That would just be
Isn't there
converted
two,
open space.
aren't there two houses?
I think that's right, there are two.
Two structures, one house and I think a substructure, I'm not, yeah, but all the structures are being removed.
Are they currently occupied? You know,
They're vacant.
vacant? Okay, thank you. Go, Joe.
And one other question. The one thing that gives me pause here is this open 24 hours a day. So is that something that all of your stores do? You know, it's,
Yes, so 24 hours is standard for Sheets. Every single one of our 750-plus locations are open 24/7. We believe it offers the ultimate convenience to our customer, and it's something that's part of our DNA.
thought I'd ask.
Anyone else? Yes.
I noticed you didn't speak at all about the fuel tanks or any kind of environmental impact. Since your secondary your secondary business is gas. So what work have you done for your fuel tank systems to make sure that they don't have any leaks? Or any improvements since any of your lawsuits that you settled for your past leaks in your gas stations?
Sure, so I would like to clarify, the litigation you're referring to happened back in 2005 and was not in regard to any leaking. It was in regard to how we were monitoring. That has since been rectified, and for the past 20 years, we have maintained a near 100% technical compliance with the EPA. For local reference, the state of Michigan average is roughly only 71%. So Sheets, we take a lot of pride, and we take that very seriously. We put in state-of-the-art. We spend the extra dollar. For example, instead of putting steel fittings in, we put in stainless steel. Things like that. We go the extra mile. We're monitoring every second of every day. We have staff. We have an army of maintenance personnel on staff that respond to any potential issues in quick order.
So at near 71%, what are some of your larger issues that keep you, so
We're not near 71%. We're near 100%. The state average is near 70%.
oh, the state average is near 71%.
Yeah,
I'm
we're
sorry, I
nearly
misunderstood.
100%.
Okay, I got you.
Anyone else? Yes.
As far as the gas tanks are concerned, you're regulated by Eagle at the state level, and you have to follow their regulations in order to put a gas tank, underground tank in.
Not Eagle, Musta,
Oh, okay.
but yes, the state.
And the tanks are not only, are they regulated by the state, but there's also a place you can look up online to see whether or not there's underground tanks there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. My, seems to be the chief concern from what I've been reading is about light. And I couldn't tell from the diagrams, how far away is the drive-through from residential? We have a minimum.
So we can definitely provide those dimensions for ultimate clarity to staff. I don't have them in front of me, but I don't know if you can see the screen. So the drive-through canoe is on the north side there. So you can see there's a significant amount of land
Right,
in between us.
that's where the acre and a half is.
Yeah,
So I think we were having a discussion, it's either 75 or 100 feet, something like that. From
we definitely comply. We definitely comply.
Okay. And the other consideration, and this is be something that this gets past this level, that you're going to have to, will be part of a PUD agreement, that you have to give us assurances that the light won't, light from, we have requirements in the city anyways, that all lighting has to be downlit and shielded, so it doesn't.
Oh, yes.
When it comes to the final plans, you're going to have to give us the light penetration, so it doesn't go off-site and bother the neighbors. Another concern was, and you're going to probably have to put something up, or you're going to have to put shrubs or trees up to block the headlights of people going through the drive-through. And the other thing that I think we should require is, you have on here that the gas is $2.25?
Lock that in.
I like that one. But that's, my main concern is a lighting issue. My other concern is that property's been vacant for quite a long time, and that's not good.
Right.
Something has to be done there, and leaving it alone for another 10 years is not a good idea.
Well, I can assure you, the items you discuss about your lighting ordinance are very common, and it's something we're very used to designing around and complying with. It's going to be no concern.
Well, bleeding light is a concern of mine, and I know it's a concern of the neighbors, and so if we're going to allow this, we're going to hold you to that.
100%. We agree.
Okay. Steve, then Danielle.
What percentage of your stores have drive-throughs and how many don't have drive-throughs?
That's a very great question. I'm not sure I quite know the answer to that. Do you know, Scott? I'm going to say 50-50, but that's not a firm number.
Yeah,
I can
when
definitely get
when I
back
did
to
a
you.
quick look online, it was, when I was clicking on different sites, it looked around 50-50. I've got a concern about the drive-through, especially with it being 24 hours, both from a lighting and also from a sound perspective. I think lighting with the downlight and the lighting restrictions, it's a concern, but I think it's a manageable one. The sound from a drive-through, where are the speakers on this?
Yeah, so I will show you.
Oh, it's touch from the car?
It is, yeah. So on the very far right, it's digital drive-through, so you actually order right on the screen. There is a speaker out there, but it's only for assistance and accessibility issues. It does not get used for ordering.
Okay, where is this on the plan? I didn't see it on the plan.
Oops, my apologies. So it's kind of blocked by this white box here. I don't know if you can see my cursor moving.
Yeah.
But we'll say it's right underneath the 0 there.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see it on the plans, that's why I was asking. So it's in that upper loop,
Correct.
so it's further away from the residential.
Drive-through actually gets much less use than, say, a fast food drive-through.
Microphone, please.
I mean, I was just kind of reiterating what Kareem said earlier. The drive-through doesn't get as much use as a drive-through you might be more familiar with, like at a McDonald's or a Starbucks or something like that. The drive-throughs here the traffic counts are really light relative to.
Yeah, it's a very small portion of our business, and we'd be happy to provide those counts to staff.
Danielle?
So I wanted to, really quick, I just want to say something as well. I've heard landscaping buffers a couple of times. In your packet, you should have received a kind of a preliminary landscaping plan, which is going to be pretty close to what we hope to do there. And you can see that the goal is that entire western perimeter, with the exception of the sidewalk coming up in the bike racks, which was a request of our back and forth with city staff. Majority of that area is remaining untouched. We're not grading, we're not removing any of the vegetation in that area, and then we're supplementing it with pretty extensive 80 some odd trees in that area. So it's a very extensive supplemental landscape plan that's going to help buffer any light from any operations on site.
I have 3 questions.
Okay.
The first is, circling back to the fuel tanks. For the cities that were impacted by your leaks in 2001, 2001 and 2002, what was the environmental impact to those actual neighborhoods? And how did you help them recover?
So again, there were no leaks. It was about how we were monitoring, but there were not any leaks.
So I have 7 streets in an article that outline actual leaks that you had, in which you paid a small fee, because it was very small, but a small fee to the EPA. And it was in 2000 and 2001, from 15,000 gallon gasoline and diesel fuel tanks located at stores in Valley Avenue, Berryville Pike, Winchester, Virginia. Looks like most of them were in Virginia. I'm just trying to understand where you had issues. How did you help the neighborhoods recover? What was the impact, if any, to them? And how did you help them recover?
I'll answer this in 2 ways. So one, there were not any leaks. It was how we were monitoring at those places, at those locations. There were no leaks. But I will tell you how.
So could you explain for us, you keep saying monitoring, what was the issue with monitoring? Describe it.
Honestly, sir, I'm not familiar. It was almost 20 years ago.
Okay.
But I'll answer your question in a little bit different way. Sheets takes the environment and taking care of the environment very seriously. So before we build a new location on a piece of land, we do an environmental study of the soils. And oftentimes we find that there is contamination already present before we were ever there. Whether it be from, well, it could be from a lot of things. It could be from fuel users, it could be from an auto shop, it could be from hydraulic fluid if there was an elevator shaft, it could be from a lot of things. Heating oil for a home. We always completely remove the soils, we always completely remediate the site. We comply completely with those standards, and we go above and beyond to make sure that we comply with that.
Okay. My second question is on the 24-hour operation. I understand you said all of your stores are 24 hours, but just like your drive-throughs are 50/50, is that a line in the sand for your organization? That if we approve it, if this city approves it, that it has to be a 24-hour operation?
24 hours, yes, that's a line in the sand.
If I could add one more thing to that. You know, with the 24 hours comes, more employment than you would typically see on a site this size. Sheetz employs 30 to 40 full-time employees. There's never one employee there alone at a time. So while the 24 hours could be seen as, a negative externality, it does ensure that more folks in the community are employed, and Sheetz does, with their hiring practice, gets from the local hiring pool as much as possible. So it does allow for more workers to come into that facility. Sheetz compensates their workers with quite a lot of benefits, more than the market. They've been nominated and rewarded multiple times for being a top workplace. So that is one benefit that comes with the 24 hours. And with that, Sheetz has really, I call it mission impossible level security, over 60 cameras on site. They've actually, in some instances in Ohio, helped the police catch certain crimes due to their surveillance of the area. So it gets more eyes on the area as well. It's very contemplated, the level of additional security needed that comes with the 24-hour operation.
Thank you for that. On your hiring practices, how equitable are they?
I'm sorry, through the chair.
It's not, yeah, not
Not a
a
land use issue, it's not anything. we
It
can
isn't,
inquire
but he
about.
brought it up, so I wanted to ask the question.
Still not a land use issue for us to bring up.
All right, I still want to answer to that question, so if you could send me an email, I'd appreciate it. My third question is to the staff. On the gas stations that we have operating in the city, or just the way we do our convenience stores and gas stations, is it normal for us to have, or do we have any others that operate like 24 hours?
Yes.
We do? Do you, by any chance, know a percentage?
I don't know percentage, but I frequent a few of them, so.
Okay.
Can I follow up on that?
Sure.
When you say yes, are any of them not in a, freeway, well, express?
Yes.
Yes, there are
Few of them
ones
are.
that are not, right, okay. Thank you.
I'm done.
That may not have made much sense to you, but,
Makes sense to me.
Are you,
I am done, sir. Thank you.
no more questions here? No more questions
I
here?
frequent a
Julia?
few.
Julia,
Your turn.
your turn.
All right.
Sit down.
So as has been discussed by the applicant, this site plan, or this PUD qualification is regarding a fueling station with a restaurant use convenience store and a drive-through as accessory. Tonight, we're here for the PUD qualification, and just so everybody in the room knows, tonight is consideration as to whether or not the application qualifies to proceed to the PUD review process. So we're not reviewing the site plans in depth at this meeting. We're simply discussing whether or not they're eligible and they meet the credentials to move forward. The site is listed in the future land use map as shopping center type business. As mentioned by the applicant, this aligns with sites that are compatible with those in the shopping center environment, typically reminiscent of uses in B1, B2, or B3 currently in the ordinance. The rear parcels are both designated as multiple family residential on the future land use map. And the entirety of the site is currently zoned as RC2, which is a multiple family residential zoning district. The one thing I want to note on that is that in 2019, this site was zoned as predominantly B2 with RA1 in the rear, and this rezoning took place in advance of an application that was received previously. The residential densities map designates the rear parcels as high-density residential, and the parcels not as part of any other special planning areas in the master plan. The site generally meets the dimensional requirements of the ordinance. A little bit more information is needed to evaluate the setbacks. However, they're quite extensive that were proposed on the site. I did just quickly measure as we were having the discussion, and it was like just shy of 65 feet to the drive-through lane on the west side. And then that's also directly adjacent to some sort of utility, a parcel that's used by some sort of utility use. So there's a little bit additional distance. The parking and circulation on this site needs to be further reviewed upon a complete submission of the PUD application, because additional information is needed on things like number of employees to evaluate the parking calculations. It's possible that additional departures from the ordinance may be requested as a part of further review from site circulation and parking standards. Presently, from the plans that were submitted, it was identified that in addition to the use, which I guess I kind of skipped through that, so I'll go back to it, but there also is a required bypass lane for drive-throughs, and they have that slip lane that goes around that doesn't have the bypass. Now, I kind of breezed through the qualification criteria. Our report analyzes the responses that were provided to staff. So I know that there was an addendum here. We didn't provide responses to the same qualification criteria that were here in our report. We simply reviewed what the applicant initially responded to. To be clear, going through those standards, the first question asked about whether it would impact the health, safety, and welfare of the area. We did note that although it's zoned for multiple family residential, it is directly across the street from other gasoline station uses. And although gasoline stations are more intensive than what's typically permitted in an RC2 zoning district, the proposed use includes significant buffers, preserving the building from adjacent properties and preserving land as open space. The next asks about whether the PUD could be utilized in situations where the same land use objectives could be accomplished by conventional zoning provisions or standards. So here, I think there is some interesting discussion to be had. Although the use is not currently permissible in the RC2 district, it is future land use zoned shopping center type business, which means that it is eligible to be rezoned to B1. And B1 is consistent with that future land use map, and it would allow a gas station, a convenience store, and a restaurant. However, with the addition of a drive-through use, it's no longer consistent with what's permissible in B1. And so I think, as we've discussed earlier, that is what leads the applicant to require a PUD for this request. However, as also mentioned, the PUD tool does give Planning Commission the ability to negotiate community benefits such as open space. In addition, it asks about whether there will be additional loads or capacity needs based on the use and if it's consistent with the future land use map. So as discussed, it is consistent with the future land use map. And we pointed out that although traffic at this intersection will likely increase as a result of new gasoline station, it is difficult to ascertain whether or not that impact would be greater than what would be derived from the maximum RC2 use that could be permitted at the same intersection. However, the Planning Commission may request a traffic study as a part of the site plan consideration, and I believe the applicant mentioned tonight that they were working on their traffic studies as we speak. As far as the criteria in E that was discussed, as mentioned, I don't think as many of these were initially pointed out. However, the argument for open space was certainly mentioned under 1 and 2 and 4. However, with 4, I think that, again, it should be noted that although they're providing adequate buffers, the underlying zoning district was intended for a residential use. So I think that's a helpful point to consider. And then the last one that they responded to was 8, and asking about the redevelopment of sites where an orderly change of use is determined to be desirable. And here we discussed the extended vacancy and current condition, as well as some of the benefits that were noted in the application, including architecture, reduced impervious cover, increased green space, pedestrian access, bike racks, landscaping, and a decorative knee wall. Finally, when asked as whether the PUD shall not be allowed solely as a means of increasing density or as a substitute for a variance request, we once again pointed out that the primary reason for seeking a PUD here appears to be to allow a land use which is not permissible in the underlying RC2 zoning district. So if rezoned to B1, the applicant could develop the site for a gas station, convenience store, and restaurant use, but a drive-through use would not be permissible without the PUD. So I believe that concludes my review. And again, to go over the two departures that are currently being requested would be to permit a gasoline station, convenience, retail, and drive-through restaurant with outdoor dining in the RC2 district, as well as departure from the bypass lane requirement. And that, like I said, is just one that we noted during a conceptual review. However, additional parking and circulation departures are likely upon more comprehensive analysis. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
No? Questions? No? Okay. It's back to the commission. Barry?
We have to hear from the,
No, it's not a public hearing.
oh, okay. I'll make a motion then. So. I move to make a preliminary finding that PUD 2024 dated May 20th, 2024, submitted by Skilkin Gold Real Estate Development qualifies for the plan unit development option under section 34-3.20.2A through D of the zoning chapter. Is further determined that the proposal meets at least one of the objectives outlined in section 34-3.20.2EI through VII, and I'll go through that in a minute, and that the final granting of the PUD plan and contract requires approval by the City Council following a recommendation by the Planning Commission. The proposed plan preliminarily meets the following qualification standards of section 34-3-20-2 .e dot I, did I say dot I, dot I, dot IV, dot VII, which is 1, 3, 4, and 8. And that if this is approved, that a traffic study shall be submitted with the site plan at a later date.
There's support?
Second, support.
Been moved and supported? There's discussion. Steve?
Yeah. On item number 8, just one of the things that always gets me on PUDs, and I hate to see them included as a rationale for a PUD, is current condition. I don't think current condition should be a reason for a PUD. The condition shouldn't be in a bad enough condition, in my mind, to justify a PUD. I agree with item 8, other than the current condition, but would you be willing to pull that piece out?
I'd pull it out, but the only reason why because I went through what they had and I went through what Julia had, and I picked the ones that I thought best fit this particular project. And the one thing that concerns me most about that corner is that Genopolis used to be a very hot spot in this town, and there was always a lot of people going there. You know, it was very sad when it closed down, and I understand why it did. And I know that the Genopolis brothers were getting older and they didn't want to do that anymore. And one of the concerns I have is that we have a vacant building there that's been vacant for 10, 15 years.
I don't know.
Oh, not that long?
No.
3 years?
4?
You think? I thought it was longer than that. I thought we passed the senior facility 3 or 4 years ago. It's been vacant for a long time.
Yeah. Okay.
And so
The vacant aspect I go with, but the condition is the thing. I just don't like.
All right, I'll take out VIII then, but they only need one and they have at least 3. And the biggest thing that I like is the fact that they are willing to put a buffer in there, which is not really required, and that will buffer it from the neighbors. And I know they're also going to be putting in their detention area over there also, which also helps the neighbors out, so there's no overflow of water and it goes into that particular area. So that's a good thing. And I think that PUD is the best way to handle this particular parcel of property. And I think that the biggest problem we have now is that it was rezoned so they could put up a senior facility that never happened, and it was a commercial before that. So this is basically just going back to the way it was, pretty much.
Okay, but you're comfortable with pulling out? 8?
Yeah, I'll take out VIII,
Yeah,
which is 8.
Support the adjustment.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Dale?
Okay, I guess a procedural question. So tonight, we're qualifying. That's our call. The planning commission's responsibility is to qualify it for a PUD. It's not the council. Correct? Correct. And are we approving a preliminary plan tonight, a final plan tonight as part of this motion?
Nothing at all.
So that's something that's going to come back later to us?
Yes.
In detail. Okay, so we'll see a plan. We're going to qualify it. That's what the motion calls for right now. Qualification's been seconded. We'll take a vote on that. And we'll see a finalized plan come forward as relates to light and noise, unless there's an exception in the PUD agreement. They have to meet the ordinance requirements that says lights can't shed onto adjoining properties per the ordinance, and noise has to meet the ordinance requirements. So like any other development in the city, they'll have to comply with our light and noise ordinances. I like the idea of the buffer to the north. I think you don't get it otherwise unless you go through a PUD process. I'm okay with the provision that was taken out. If you want to take it out, that's fine, but I understand Steve's point on that as well. So I will be supporting this and seeing the plan go through further refinement through us and to city council and then ultimately a PUD agreement. Thank you.
Any other? Joe?
Yes, I think the question before us is, do they meet the minimum criteria for a PUD? That's the only question. And they're saying, we're going to provide some open space. That's one of the criteria. If they meet that, then we have to say, okay, you can move forward. But there will be lots of review. We haven't even been here an hour. You know, I really look forward to hearing anyone who feels strongly about this, or even not strongly, wants to say once the public gets to talk, although it will be after our vote. Okay? Because there are decisions in the future. We welcome your input.
Barry?
One comment I would like to make is that this is just a preliminary. It'll go to council to see if they will adopt a PUD in another meeting. But I'm sure we're going to get some comments from neighboring residents, and what I ask for the proponent is that you listen to these comments and take time to meet with the people nearby and try to work something out so that everybody's happy. When you first came in here with just a straight zoning, I saw problems with the PUD. I see solutions, and this is where public interest will help not only you, but it'll help us make a decision on your final plan. So do listen to what they say and make arrangements to meet with the neighbors. And I think that this happened on another project that was not too far from there. There was a lot of complaints, and then all of a sudden somebody else stepped in and did something else, but they worked it out with the neighbors and got everything the neighbors wanted in there, and everybody was happy. Do the same thing. That's all I'm saying.
Any other questions on discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Okay, next item on the agenda is,
Approval of minutes.
yes,
I'd like to move to approve minutes from the meeting, May 16th, 2024, a regular meeting.
it's been moved and supported. All those in favor of approval of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye.
Who's second?
Right here. Angie.
Angie, good.
Next item is item number 6, the public comment. This is what I promised you when we opened the meeting. There would be a chance for the public to come up and speak. You have 3 minutes if you're a resident, or you have 5 minutes if you represent a homeowners association. If you wish to speak, now is the time to speak. Please give your name for the clerk.
Hi, my name's Dion DeGennaro. I'm a Farmington Hills resident, lifetime Farmington Hills resident. I live at 28379 Newcastle Road. Have a little bit prepared. I'm going to cut it down to meet that 3-minute mark here. I'm here to voice my strong opposition to the development of this project. My childhood home is actually right across the street on Middlebelt, pretty much right across from where they're going to put the new driveway for this gas station. My mother still lives in the home and is raising her family in the home. I really appreciate Danielle's line of questioning for environmental impact, and I don't appreciate how the representatives from this development kind of brushed it off, actually. That's actually a very serious concern of mine that I was going to speak on. But the biggest thing I wanted to speak on was I question the demand for this gas station in this location. I did my research before coming here, and there are 9 other gas stations in about 1.14 square miles. There is nowhere else in Farmington Hills or really surrounding cities with this density of gas stations. And they say that they don't want to increase traffic and they're going to capture the existing traffic. So if their goal is to capture the existing traffic, what's going to happen to those 8 other gas stations that are older, might not offer the same amenities? Are those going to be vacant brownfield sites that are really difficult to redevelop because there's no demand for the gas? I also appreciate that they are planning to put in EV chargers, like they're gonna prefab it and get it ready to go, but as it currently stands, there's none on this project as far as I can see from this plan, and I realize that this isn't a final site plan and all of that, but it's one thing to say you're planning for it and another thing to do it. And I do feel that way about a lot of the stuff that they mentioned. Again, I appreciate the changes that they have made to accommodate light pollution and sound pollution. I have also serious issues with the drive-through. That loop is literally pointed at my old bedroom window. So, yeah, I have a lot of concerns for what that's going to look like moving forward. I definitely agree that something needs to be done on that corner, but as far as what could be done, I don't really think a gas station is the right move, and I do think that the city needs more workforce housing. I'm sure everyone on the planning board is familiar with what workforce housing is. I think the reason why development on that site failed in the past was we don't need more senior living. There's senior living being built every square mile from Livonia to Commerce. They're putting in facilities everywhere, and there is going to be an increased demand, but where there's the most demand and what I feel like Farmington Hills needs is more housing for working families, people who are teachers, firefighters, police officers, that kind of thing. And I would love to see if you guys do change the zoning on this or give a PUD to try to focus on more affordable housing for middle-class families as opposed to affordable homes and luxury homes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Geraldine McCard. I've always thought of the city of Farmington Hills as a city that cares about the environment and about the natural beauty and about the quality of life. As a resident, I've paid property taxes here for 47 years. Now it looks very much like my property taxes will be dropping. Why? Because the assessed value of my property and that of the other 87 units of Beechwood Hill condos will be plummeting. So the city will be getting much less income just because of a 24/7 lights, glaring gas station concession. What will you have gained except for the degrading of the character of an entire neighborhood? Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. I'm Keith Henry Jr. I live at 29580 Orient Court, and I'm representing Crestwood Meadows HOA. We live just north of the proposed development, and we have a close-knit, tight community with very elegant homes. This development threatens our community in several critical ways. First one is safety. Gas stations bring increased physical traffic. They pose risk to pedestrians, children, and cyclists on quiet streets. We also have very small children that go back and forth to the Hawk, and they take that path going northbound up Middle Belt and then westbound up 12 Mile. The environmental impact, which we already discussed. Fuel stations contribute to pollution, reduce air quality, and to impact our health and our environment. We also, once again, Danielle, I appreciate your line of questioning with the environmental impacts. Property values, as one of our community people discussed, we pay a lot of money to live on Orient Court. And that development, me and my wife was talking about, we might have to sell our home because I do not want to lose the money we put into that property. Noise and light pollution, which the council discussed. That is also going to be a problem for our community because most of us are working class families over there. We shut down early, and then something that's open 24 hours a day, that's going to be of great concern to us. Community character. Our neighborhood is residential, not commercial. Now, we do have 2 gas stations adjacent to each other, one closed down, but we do not need another gas station over there. The traffic that place is going to bring, the clientele that place is going to bring, is going to lose our privacy on Orient Court. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is George Snowy. I live behind the property over there. The way I see the gas station look like, if any drive-through, I'm gonna hear them over my living area. I am against it. There'll be no any privacy to my home. I have young kids over there. My neighbor have young kids. They go back and forth to the street with a bike. Plus, the crowd is gonna be over there. There'll be a lot of punk hanging up in this area over there just for 24 hours. I mean, the street is not fixed for this kind of crowd. Plus, the map, it doesn't show how far they going to the farm, to the house. Which kind of, let's say we prove it, how are you gonna divide the noise? From the light, evening, I know now there is a lot of tree covered, we don't see nothing, but tomorrow if they clean it up, anybody pass to the drive-through is gonna be flashing to my window and flashing to my neighbor. I'm not happy with it, and I hope it never happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chuck Rose. I live in Beechwood Hill Condos, which is to the west of the planned development. I'm at 27900 Berrywood Lane. I made some notes, so it's sort of a little random, but as I understand it, this is a truck stop. If that's not correct.
I'm gonna let the proponent answer that. Is this a truck stop? No, okay.
Is it designed to include trucks? Aren't all your other stations designed to include trucks? Most?
Yeah, you have to address me, but.
Okay, sorry.
I think he answered your question.
I'll clarify some of the things. Well, jumping over a couple. They say there's no viable solution on the horizon. That just means they want to get in quick before maybe somebody else has a better idea. And certainly I'm against it, and everybody in my group that's sitting in the corner there is against it. The picture shown at the beginning, I felt, was just like a satellite image with a few lines on it. I thought that was intentional, so that you weren't able to see, and we weren't able to see, what the actual drawing would have been if they had the building, the driveway, the missing driveway would have been drawn in.
Do you remember when I started this out? I said, this is just gonna be about a qualification, and you're down on building. This will come later.
I'm talking about the picture that they showed.
No, I understand that, but I want you to understand that you're gonna come back later, and we're gonna talk about those points.
Okay. Bleeding light and bleeding sound, two different things. The light, I'd like the city to look into how light shines out from other Sheets truck stops in the metro area. See how that is? And bleeding sound, I don't see how tree buffering can really do much for bleeding sound from the cars and the starting up of the cars. One other thing, they mentioned 80 trees, which surprised me in the number. I'm wondering if there's any evergreens allowed or planned. If there are going to be 80 trees or so planted, I think at least half, or roughly half, should be evergreens. I'd like to know how many I'd like you to think about how many parking spaces there are.
Again, that's going to be part of the design stage.
Okay, well,
You're
it's a
over-
heads up in what we're thinking about. That's, I'm doing the best I can here.
Okay, you're over 3 minutes though, so I'll give you another minute.
Okay, that'll be enough. When they say that there's open space, I don't think open space on a gas station is they said it was a community benefit. To me, it's trees on a gas station. It's not a public park. I think it's just window dressing. And they talked about this being a preliminary meeting, but apparently there has been a meeting before this, which is interesting to learn.
They were in here earlier, and this is the result, is this meeting right here. And this will move forward after this. We've now pushed this onto the city council, which you will have notice of when they meet. And if they move ahead, then it'll be back here.
Hey, John, it'll come back here.
It'll come back to you.
Yeah, it'll come back here. Yeah, I know. But-
Before.
Before
Oh,
council.
before? Okay, I thought it went to them for the PUD. I'm sorry. Anyway, we'll be back here. You will get notified.
So it's like we get notified at the third level, but we happen to learn about it.
There will be within 300 feet, Julia, everybody gets to learn within
Yeah.
300 feet.
Yeah, and I think it might be helpful to clarify, they made a different request at the last meeting and then decided that wasn't the direction they wanted to go and then submitted plans with a different application at this meeting. So that's why there's been discussion previously.
Okay, well, but we didn't get the 300 feet notice for this meeting. I'm just saying, it's a different kind of meeting, I guess. We get it for the next kind of meeting.
Yeah.
And the last thing was, there's a lot of mention about buffer to the north. Well, we live in the condos that are just to the left.
West.
Which is to the west, and it was hard to hear anything about a buffer to our side, and two of our buildings are right next to that border line.
Right.
Whereas Orion Court is bad enough, but they at least they have a street blocking.
The pine trees, the columnar junipers, separate the current site from your building. Right? The big green
Okay, so-
trees.
Oh, where we are?
Yeah, on the west
Yeah,
side.
but for noise, et cetera.
Right.
Okay, so thanks for the next couple minutes.
Sure. Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Samantha Henry, and I live on 29580 Orion Court. I just wanted to state that I implore each and every one of you, when you leave here today, to just drive. It's right around the corner. Take a quick look. And just so you know, I know you mentioned pine trees. I know they mentioned a buffer. But in the wintertime, there is no buffer. There's no pine trees. It's open space.
Yeah.
So for it to be 24 hours, we have children that have been in this community for almost 10 years. And as my husband mentioned when he got up here and spoke, we are considering that our property value probably will go down, and we probably will end up selling our home because of that. We have our other neighbor that lives directly across the street from the so-called buffer. And I just want to let you guys know, if it is your street and we live on a private drive, I know that people will circle in that spot. They will pull into that area all hours of the night. We don't have that type of traffic. The two gas stations that are there now close at a reasonable hour. They don't operate 24 hours a day. And the environmental impact as well that Danielle mentioned is very important to me also. So I just wanted to mention that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right, thank you. Again, you'll be notified the next step in this process, and there will be, how many more, Tom?
So there will be a meeting here with the planning commission. That'll be a public hearing that they'll get notified at, and then it'll go to the city council, which will hold another public hearing, actually 2 hearings, because there'll be an initial public hearing, then if it moves forward, there will be another meeting on the agreement for the PUD. So at least 3 significant meetings.
Dale?
So the next thing we should anticipate is a detailed site plan that will come to us, and that will be a preliminary hearing or a public hearing?
That'll be the public hearing.
So we'll have, the next thing that we get will be the details. We were talking about the plan, about where everything is, and we couldn't see it up here tonight. That detailed site plan will come to us in a public hearing, which you will be able to speak during the public comment on that item instead of waiting to the end of the meeting to talk about that specific site plan with the details of the plan. So that's the next step. And then that plan then would go on, if we make a recommendation on that plan, onto city council, same plan, and they'll hold a public hearing on that plan as well, and they'll make the final determination. If they approve that plan, then there's a PUD agreement that ties the details of the plan, all the agreements between the city, the neighbors, the developer, in an agreement, and that ultimately gets approved by city council. So it's a deliberate, incremental process.
Joe?
I would like to make one small correction to that statement.
Please.
When it goes to city council, it may not be the same plan that they bring to us at the planning commission before we listen to the public, okay?
Because we will have made changes.
We often do.
It'll evolve.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Barry?
I just want to make one other comment, because some of the neighbors made these comments. There's very strict requirements on gas stations and how their tanks go down, what surrounds their tanks, drainage and all that stuff. And that's set by the state. And this previously was not a gas station, so the chances of the property being polluted, or have you done a phase 1 on it yet, or phase 2?
Yeah, they did test borings last November.
Oh, okay, so it passed that. That's usually what the purchaser usually does a phase 1, phase 2, because they could get stuck with the bill. If they buy the property, they can get stuck with the bill of rehabilitating the property if they buy it that way. So they have to have the phase 1, phase 2 to protect them from somebody else's polluting the site. But after the fact, when they actually put a gas station in there, they have to follow other requirements, and they have to dig really big ditches, and they have to surround them by sand. It's a way to keep the tanks. The tanks, when they're brand new, they usually there's not a leaching problem, and that's what you're mostly worried about. And because of the sand, it tends to stay on site. If it leaches, they're going to be in trouble anyway. Somebody else the state will go after them. But as far as right now, it's not just they dig a hole in the ground and throw a tank in it. They have to follow certain requirements by the state, so you don't worry a lot about that. I'm on the Brownfield Committee, so we run into this every now and then. And so I just wanted to let you know, it's not just they do whatever they want to. They have to follow state regulations, and so it's not city regulations. They follow city regulations as to where they put the building. As far as putting in a gas station and putting in tanks, they follow state regulations, and they're rather stiff. So I just want to let you know that so you didn't worry about that aspect of it.
Okay.
Are we in commissioner comments now, or?
We are.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is really to my colleagues. We spend a long time looking at the master plan and talking about how we see the city and how we want to future see the city. So I'm a little worried that we're not using that same thought process when things come in front of us because we're being asked to look at it in a silo and ignore the fact that we know that there are 8 other gas stations in a 1.4-mile radius to get another gas station, or maybe that we thought that area would be good for redevelopment for a strip mall or a restaurant or something, because we're being forced to only look at whether or not a PUD is coming in front of us. That does not allow us to apply the master plan, and being cut off in our conversations to get clarity about what it is someone is presenting in front of us and asking us to vote on is unfair and inappropriate. And so what I would like to state is that after all that time we spent doing the master plan, that we should be allowed and we should be making every effort that whatever is coming in front of us, that we are applying what we spent time creating and thinking thoroughly, does this work in what we hope to see the city evolve to or continue to grow in? That's it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Comments? Okay.
We moved on.
What? No. Yeah.
And my concern is, first of all, traffic going down Millville at the busy times of the day. You don't need a gas station right there. My main concern is at night. 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, teenagers, especially in the summer coming, there'll be noise, there'll be more activity, and bringing more strangers to that we don't need to have.
Okay, thank you. All right. Go ahead.
Just a second. So to answer, well, not to answer, but to make a comment to you guys, as far as it being 24 hours, and I'm looking at this photo that's been in front of us for about the last 15 or 20 minutes, I see that there's indoor dining, I see that there's outdoor dining. Is there a way, if the community is concerned about the outside, is there a way to not allow outside dining and just limit it to the inside at a certain time, say 8, 9 o'clock, and after that, there is no 24-hour outside dining or gathering? That's my comment.
Joe?
I was just going to say the answer is we can impose any restrictions we want on a PUD, and that's
Yeah, I think
like
that,
the next meeting to discuss those things.
Yes?
No. Any other commissioner comments? No.
Okay.
no.
We've reached adjournment, yes.
Yeah.
If I may, we have in fact gone through a master planning process and talked about big ideas. And I think one of the big ideas for me that's come out of that master planning process is we shouldn't hesitate to ask for more as we go. Remember that? That's been a theme in the PUD process.
Yeah, like.
Roll that out.
Yes, if there's a bus that travels by there, is there going to be shelter for people? Yeah.
I motion to adjourn.
Been moved and supported. We adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Thank you.